Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Sim. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. Each time we talk about how the system is not broken, that the system is actually working the way it is designed to work. Some people will think that you are exaggerating or you are trying to, make things escalate and all that. But sincerely speaking, this is absolutely the reality. The system is working the way it is designed to work. Just yesterday, the Supreme Court has just limited the power of lower courts, to not to make some certain kind of decisions and all that. It is actually going to be hard at this point in time. And that the court rules that the executive order against birth rights can go into effect in different parts of the country. That shows you how broken the system is. And all these things are the things that Black people feared so much, especially for the people that do not care for themselves. Black people scream so hard about this birthright citizen because they knew. They screamed so hard about this man coming into power because they knew. All these things were things they saw ahead and they tried so hard to wedge it. But some people said no. So some people's dream, the American dream, is about to be cut short. But it is what it is. Let's get into this video.
Y'all are really not understanding what just happened. The Supreme Court used this case to get rid of one of the few checks and balances that we still had left. And that is our federal courts and our federal judges being able to implement injunctions. The Supreme Court used this case to weaken our federal court system and federal judges' ability to block the impacts of executive orders. And for those who do not know, that is one of the powers of our federal courts and our federal judges. That ability is what allows for them to maintain checks and balances on the executive branch so that executive orders cannot go into effect if they're unconstitutional. It is one of our first guardrails against an executive order going into effect if it is unconstitutional. And what the Supreme Court just did does not just impact the birthright citizenship issue. It does not just impact the birthright citizenship executive order. Because understand, they did not even rule on whether or not this executive order against birthright citizenship is constitutional or not. They didn't even rule on, they didn't even touch that. All they did was limit the power of federal courts to block the impacts of executive orders, which means that it can have implications for future executive orders down the line. Future executive orders that don't even have anything to do with birthright citizenship. It weakened the courts. It weakened our federal courts and their job. Part of the job of the federal courts, the judiciary, is to check the executive branch. The judicial branch, which includes our federal courts, part of their job is to maintain checks and balances by checking the federal executive branch. Well, they did it. The Supreme Court just ruled not on the constitutional basis of the executive order against birthright citizenship, but instead on the ability of federal courts to issue injunctions to block the effects of this executive order, which means that the executive order against birthright citizenship can go into effect in different parts of the country. So again, this ruling was not addressing the major issue and question as to whether or not this executive order is constitutional or not. This ruling limits the power of federal judges to block the impacts of this executive order. And this effectively means that Trump and his administration are now able to define what birthright citizenship looks like and means through their executive orders and through executive orders coming down the line. This is one of the most impactful rulings we've seen this court issue in a 6-3 vote. It's also one of the most concerning because some of us know the history of birthright citizenship and what that means. But also, when you allow people to define and redefine what birthright citizenship looks like based on their own agenda, not constitutionally, but based on how they feel and what they deem correct according to their plans in Project 2025, this is dangerous. This is extremely dangerous. So again, just for clarity, they did not rule on whether or not this executive order was constitutional or not. They ruled to limit the power of federal judges to block the impacts of this order, which means that in certain parts of the country, this order will go into effect.
Let me make one thing real clear. This ain't about injunctions. This is about erasing the 14th Amendment with a smile. We thought the courts were supposed to be the last line of defense, the place where liberty stands tall even when presidents go rogue. But on Friday, in a 6-3 decision straight down party lines, the Supreme Court told us, nah, we good. They let Trump sneak his foot in the door to cancel birthright citizenship. And they dressed it up in legal jargon about equity and injunctions. Oh, but don't get distracted. The real target was always your rights, especially if you was born with brown skin, immigrant parents, or ancestors who came here in chains rather than visas. For a second, it looked like the lower courts might hold the line, right? 3 federal judges had already slapped Trump's executive orders down with nationwide injunctions, telling him loud and clear, you can't just rewrite the Constitution because you feel like it. Immigrant groups were celebrating. 22 states stood up in court. Even the appellate courts said, let this play out. Then SCOTUS slid in like a repo man in the night. Instead of ruling on whether Trump's executive order was flat out unconstitutional, which it was, they sidestepped it and went for the technical foul. Universal injunctions go too far. God damn it. Basically, the court said that judges can't stop Trump's policies for everyone. Only the people who specifically sued. So now we're playing legal whack-a-mole across 50 states while Trump rushes to implement a policy that directly contradicts 150 years of law. So what's at stake, right? Everything. Let me break this down plain and simple. Trump's executive order says, if your parents weren't here legally, or maybe they were here legally but temporarily, you don't deserve citizenship. Are you serious? The 14th Amendment that was passed after the Civil War to make sure that Black folks were considered full human beings says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States are citizens. It don't say, except for immigrants. It don't say, only if your parents had papers. It says, all persons. A phrase so fucking inclusive, it slapped the face of Dred Scott and every slave master of the fucking Confederacy. So what Trump is really doing here is rewriting Reconstruction. The very laws meant to undo slavery. And the Supreme Court just handed him the pen. You thought Isengard was bad? You thought Voldemort was a problem? Justice Amy Coney Barrett, Trump's handpicked avatar, penned this majority opinion like it was a legal lullaby, with principles of equity, she says, while politely gutting the power of federal courts to stop executive tyranny. And while they didn't officially cancel birthright citizenship yet, make no mistake, they laid the legal groundwork to allow Trump to do it himself. In the dissent, Justice Sonia Sotomayor, she tried to hold the line, calling out how this decision disregards the long history of protection for non-parties. But her voice is now a lonely alarm in a house full of arsonists. This ain't about immigration. This is about control. It's about telling people of color, especially Black, brown, or immigrant babies, that their existence is conditional. That if you ain't got the generational wealth, land deeds, or ancestors off the Mayflower, you're permanently under review. Today is birthright citizenship. Tomorrow is voting rights. Affirmative action, gone. Housing, gone. Education, you got it, gone. When does it stop? In the MAGA cult, Or are they going to keep smiling in your face, talking about, this is what we voted for. This is what the founders wanted. Don't forget, y'all, the founders owned slaves. They're not playing. Trump told you on day one what he was coming for. And this court just gave him the green light to drive through your rights like a bulldozer in a graveyard. So don't wait on the Constitution to bleed before you speak up. Because if birthright citizenship can be reviewed, so can your freedom.
So the Supreme Court basically gutted birthright citizenship. So when is the bitch going back? And when she's taking that large for no reason ass motherfucker with no jump shot with her. Come on, y'all know who I'm talking about. Y'all know who I'm talking about. When's the bitch going back? Dig up her goddamn parents and take their ass with her. And take that no jump shot having 6 foot Jesus H. Christ child of hers and get the fuck up out of here. When they going back? When them 3 trifling ass children, when they leaving? Act like, come on now. Act like I'm the only one that thought it. It's okay. I'm the villain. It'll be me. Okay. It's probably me. I had to say it. I had to say it. When the fuck are they going? All right, everybody act like I'm the only one noticed. When that bitch leaving? Her and that long ass fucking bamboo stick with shoes on and slick back hair, when they getting the fuck out? In fact, if you look at all 5, only one of them can stay. Only one. And the only reason that one can stay, because her mama was American. That's also the one he don't talk about. Well, he over here, at that oldest daughter, she can go too. Take her funky ass the fuck on. I mean, her husband did get $3 billion from the Saudis. Take your ass over to Saudi Arabia. Take that ass cane snorting fucking son and that other one with no chin. Get the fuck out. Also, everybody gonna pretend like I'm the only one that said this. The moment y'all saw that SCOTUS shit, I'm the only one that noticed. When that bitch going? She gonna need a Cessna with a limousine extension. One, the front seat of the Cessna's for her. The length part is for the caskets for her parents, and that long ass son of hers. Get the fuck out. Act like I'm the only one to notice. It's cool. It's cool. Don't worry about it. Again, I'm the villain. I say things you wish you could say. It's okay. It's all right. Don't worry about it. I'll say it out loud. We all know who we're talking about. When that bitch leaving? If you want to go there, you know that dude that worked with him? What about his wife? And them towhead ass kids of his? Couch fucker? I bet you some shit would change if we had to do that now, wouldn't it? We're gonna end birthright citizenship. Good, when them motherfuckers leaving? Who? You know who.
They told us checks and balances would protect us. That lie rots in the dirt next to every other promise this system made. What we have now is a puppet show where all 3 branches work for the same goddamn master, capital. Courts don't block tyranny anymore. They rubber stamp it. Just this week, the Supreme Court gutted the power of judges to issue nationwide injunctions, stripping the only tool left to stop sweeping executive abuse. That wasn't a misstep, it was a calculated move to clear the path for authoritarian rule. Presidents now operate like kings. With Project 2025 on the table, the plan is in motion to purge federal agencies, replace career officials with loyalists, and rewrite the government into a weapon pointed at the people. These aren't warnings. They're blueprints already in execution. Congress refuses to act. They bury their heads, count their donations, and smile while Rome burns. One side cheers it on, the other whispers about norms while doing nothing. Neither will save us. Neither gives a damn about you or me. Balance doesn't exist when every lever is rigged. Justice doesn't exist when courts fold under pressure. Democracy doesn't exist when power consolidates unchecked and unchallenged. This is how fascism rises. Not in a single violent moment, but in silence, in court rulings, in bureaucratic purges, in legislative cowardice. It's already here. Still think voting will fix it? Still think decorum will stop a machine built to crush us? There is no rescue mission. No branch is coming to defend you. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed to keep you obedient, distracted, and powerless. We don't have time to wait. Communities must become fortresses. Mutual aid must become law. Direct action must become instinct. Organize, mobilize, resist. They don't fear protests. They fear revolution. So give them something to fear.
The Supreme Court doesn't know what it's just done. Today, the Supreme Court ruled to limit the power of lower courts to issue nationwide injunctions. Now, some of you might ask, how was this even brought about? Donald Trump has been signing executive order after executive order after executive order, many of which have come out to be flat out unconstitutional. And lower courts have been issuing nationwide injunctions to put a pause on these executive orders until everything is sorted out in court. Not too long ago, Donald Trump signed an executive order that would effectively end birthright citizenship. There was a nationwide injunction against it because it's flat out unconstitutional. And so Donald Trump took it up to the Supreme Court. And they did not argue about the constitutionality of birthright citizenship. This case was merely about lower courts being able to put pauses on executive orders. So essentially, with the Supreme Court's ruling, Donald Trump can issue this executive order ending birthright citizenship, upend millions of Americans' lives until the Supreme Court rules on the constitutionality of upending birthright citizenship. So to my Republicans who may be jumping for joy over this, I want you to think about something. If a Democrat gets in office and they start signing a bunch of executive orders to flood the courts, as Donald Trump has been doing, and one of those executive orders says all guns in the United States of America must be banned, lower courts cannot put a pause on it. And if the courts are already full with a bunch of cases that may be unconstitutional, it's going to take time for that to get to the Supreme Court, doing damage to the American system and democracy. And so now Donald Trump can implement this executive order to upend birthright citizenship, and for the foreseeable future, until the Supreme Court actually rules on that very key portion, people's lives will be upended. Folks, this is how a dictatorship begins. This is how the great American experiment goes wrong. there will be massive negative implications for the Supreme Court's decision today.
When I first got on TikTok, I made a video talking about a couple of things. It was one of my first videos, one of my oldest videos. I talked about the citizenship clause of the Constitution and how a lot of these conservatives are trying to redefine what birthright citizenship is and who can obtain citizenship in the United States. Now, we have for a very long time believed that birthright citizenship could be acquired through the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, which is the citizenship clause. And if you are born here, and that's the only stipulation that the Constitution mentions, that you have to be born in the United States to acquire citizenship. It doesn't mention your parents. It simply says if you are born in the United States or in a U.S. territory, you acquire citizenship through birthright citizenship. Now, in that video, I also mentioned that the 14th Amendment, unlike the 15th Amendment, does not have language in it that explicitly states that you cannot discriminate against people based on race and ethnicity. And we know that the only way that you can vote in the United States, the only way that you can participate in the civic process of voting in the United States is if you are a citizen of the United States. Now, why is this important? Why is this conversation important, specifically when it pertains to African Americans and indigenous people, and the current Supreme Court rendering that basically said that the President of the United States, the federal government, can deport you to a third-party country that you have no connection to? In that video, I also talked about the fact that a lot of these conservatives that are trying to redefine birthright citizenship are looking at the Dred Scott decision. The Dred Scott decision basically said that African-descended people were never intended to be citizens of the United States, and therefore they don't have constitutional protections granted to them. A lot of these conservatives are trying to take that decision to the Supreme Court. And with the current Supreme Court that we have, people should be worried about that. We should be worried about that. We should not, as African-descended peoples that come from African Americans, at least one of our parents is African American, we shouldn't just feel that this could not come or be something that we need to worry about. With the current Supreme Court, we should be worried that that Supreme Court, that specific Supreme Court, could nullify the citizenship of all peoples of African descent. And because the Supreme Court basically rendered a decision that affirmed that the United States government, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, could deport people to third-party countries that they have no connection to. That means that they can also deport indigenous people that are indigenous to the United States, because the Supreme Court rendered a decision and affirmed that the U.S. government could deport people to countries that they have no connection to. I want people to understand why the Supreme Court is rendering decisions that they are rendering. They are doing a literal interpretation of the Constitution in a way that we have never seen before. Meaning they are looking at the text of the Constitution and saying, well, it doesn't say that the federal government can't do this. It's beyond the idea of strict scrutiny and intermediate scrutiny and, all of these different types of scrutinies that we are used to the Supreme Court rendering decisions using. They are literally looking at the text of the Constitution, the document that is supposed to limit the power of the federal government, of the state, over the individual. The Constitution doesn't explicitly say that the state, the federal government, or the President of the United States cannot do that. That's how they're interpreting the Constitution. That's how this current Supreme Court is interpreting the literal text of the Constitution. They are basically looking at it and saying, well, there's nothing in here that mentions that the federal government, the president, the state can't do this. There's a lot of shit that's coming down the pike, and I want us to be focused. So when I tell people to stop engaging with these online leftists that don't actually want to do anything, they just speak at a camera and theorize everything, I mean that. We got more important things to worry about.
The crazy thing about ending birthright citizenship is that this is stolen land. Like the Europeans, quite literally, trying to get rid of birthright citizenship is crazy because this is a foreign land, technically. Like, this isn't your native land. Your native land is in Europe. Like, the thing is, oh, you're going to end birthright citizenship. So if you're, if your parents aren't citizens, then you're not going to be a citizen if you're born here. Okay, so if you go far back enough, though, the Europeans' descendants weren't born here either. They were in Europe. This is not their land either. The only people native to the land are the Native Americans. The Europeans literally came over here, stole the land from the natives, and then enslaved another group of people. And then once slavery was over, they were like, okay, well, we're going to give birthright citizenship to the children of slaves. And that's all that really matters. Anyone else, we don't need you. And then from there decided, okay, well, you don't need to be in our country. Oh, you can be in our country. Oh, you don't, like, making up these things as if they were the ones who were native to the land in the first place. Like, oh, if your parents weren't born here, then you're not a citizen. Okay, but if your great-great-great-grandparents weren't born here, then technically wouldn't that have been the cutoff? Oh, no, it only matters because it's people who are brown. It's people who are not white at the end of the day. And that's really all it comes down to. So it's just like, we can see what you're doing. But the thing is, Europeans are not native to this land.
This is all I got from this video, and you all can see how it's going already. All these things were what Black people were so scared of, because if you have been following Black people, you definitely will know that all these things were what they said, the things they talked about, or the things they said that they are scared of. That's why they didn't want him to get into power. And eventually it happened. He is in power. And now you can see the Supreme Court has already helped him for all his plans and everything to be. It is just not okay. It is just not okay. So I am going to ask, where is there executive, where is there legislative, and where is there judiciary? Like, I heard everybody talking about these are the three arms of government, right? And these people are out there to checkmate. That is what they call check and balances. To check on one another, to make sure that nobody is abusing his or her power. So what is now the essence of having it? Because at this point in time, it looks like, this man is a fascist. This is democracy is far away from United States. And everything Black people feared are all happening. Project 2025, that some people said it was not a thing, has come to pass. Has it not? Has it not come to pass? At this point in time, it is screaming, how did we get here? How are these all happening? And like Bishop Thomas asked, when is she leaving? I heard that and I know what he's saying. You definitely will understand what he said. When is she leaving? And there is actually this thing that I saw where Jasmine Crockett said that she is going to get to the root of it to make sure that if she is not legal here, so she can find her way out of here. Let them start with her. Man, I understand that when people have power, this is actually an abuse of power so far, because everything he is doing is to abuse power, to hold the power on his hands so that nobody can, it is really going to be bad. I don't know. I have no idea how all these things are going to play out, but it is playing out already. I don't know how it will come to end. I don't know but it is not looking good at all so far. Now, wow, it is hard because, looking at it, birthright citizenship. Now, if one of your parents are not a U.S. citizen, What does that mean? You are not. It cannot be. Now, I am going to say this. I don't care what anybody say. The truth is that our Black people have, I don't know why, like literally everything that is going on, it looks like you people are the one carrying it on your head. And this actually shows how you people do not want other people to be oppressed. I don't care what anybody say. You all are doing what you are supposed to do. You all are doing even like, going out of your way to make sure that you create awareness to let people know and understand what is at stake and the rest of it. You all are champions. You may not know it, but this is what you are. Like, you literally are fighting for people that you don't know, because all these birthright citizens, people actually also come into United States, people that are looking for better life, better opportunity for their children and all that, have their children in order to secure, like, just like the American dreams. The fact that every other person, especially white people, are against all of it, it is only Black people that when they will talk about it, they show empathy, they show sympathy, trying to let you understand. Like, I don't know how you people do it. I don't know how you people care so much about everybody. Even though nobody cares about you, you all are still ready to still speak up. If people are not learning from what is going on now, maybe people will never learn again. Bye for now.